Hey guys, what's going on? You patrons, you guys get Raptor Dog right out of the gate here.
Raptor Dog.
Yes. Thank you guys very, very much for your help on Patreon. Andy, this is the first time we're kind of doing this. It's a special patron-only show, and it's what has become, sort of famous, I guess, the Ask Us Anything type of thing. And we thought that we'd start off our Patreon content here for the month of April by doing this Ask Andy and Danny Anything type of thing and open it up to just you folks. So we're going to give that a shot here tonight. This is going to be it's going to be sort of informal, as you can tell, no special opening, so to speak. Here from us, we're just going to jump right into it, and maybe we'll be a little bit looser here. When we do some of the uncut shows and the updates, we tend to kind of talk about the structure of how we want the show to progress a little bit, different key topics or key points that we want to hit on. Whereas this, I think we're going to be a little bit more free form with this kind of stuff, and we talk about how it's uncensored, but I think generally we try to watch our language because we know we do have, some younger folks listening. So maybe we'll let a little bit more of that go here, and you'll see more of us. If you were just to be at the park with us, maybe you'll get more. You'll
not
get
too
more.
Much.
No, not too much. Not too much. No, not too much. Not at all. But
I don't even want to deal with that.
No, not too many folks. But we've talked about. Why don't we talk about Patreon in general just for a minute or two before we jump into the questions? Because we have some really good questions. The only prep work that you and I really did for this, we just went through the questions real quick, and we kind of thought about them, but we didn't really discuss them. But why don't we talk about Patreon real quick and what we kind of envision for this? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the vision for this is to keep it very low level. I know Coaster Radio in particular does Patreon where they get $800-900 a month, and they do some very in-depth things. They do the meetups, and they pay for the meetups and the food that they bring to the meetups and a lot of that stuff with Patreon money. I don't think that's going to be quite where we go with it, certainly not in the near term. I think this is more of like, hey, we'll give you guys a little bit extra if you throw in a couple of bucks, and for us it's just kind of it's money to pay for the website. It'll help out with that. And it's just a little bit on top of the YouTube money. It'll help us get the webcam. People aren't going to notice this, but I've got a brand new webcam tonight that does not do the autofocus. I'm throwing that out there because for you folks watching this right now, you might notice that in some of our earlier videos, people had been bitching and moaning that my camera kept autofocusing. And it's funny because that camera was a camera that you sent me, and you also sent me the software for it, but it was such an old camera that the software would not work on my laptop, so I literally could not open up the camera settings to turn the autofocus off. It was just always on, and I had to be very mindful about the lighting in my room, and it just didn't work out very well. So take notice and shows coming up after this that my camera will no longer autofocus, and let's see if those people actually notice that my camera doesn't autofocus anymore.
Yeah, we'll see if all those people line up to say, hey, you look so great, Danny Miller. I don't think that's
right.
That, but
no, it's certainly not going to be that, especially like it's twilight right now here. I'm sitting in a different spot than I normally do. I'm usually in my desk back there. I'm in front of my big picture window now because it's actually starting to get somewhat nice out, and we've got the Red Sox Yankees game on my TV here. So I'm kind of watching that, but the light is coming in from my window over here, and then it's coming from the lamp over there. So it's kind of like you've got like Two-Face going on here. You kind of get the same thing. You got like the white light from outside, and then you've got the lamp light from out there. But so
there. Nothing.
Yeah, that goes way back. This Patreon thing, we'll see what happens. It's really just a way for if you folks would like to give us a few extra dollars, to help us out, pay for some maintenance type of things, and in return we'll give you guys a little bit extra. Certainly let us know if there's more you want out of this. And if you'd be willing to pay more to get more, and what exactly you'd be interested in. I think we have the $1 and the $5 levels. We have we've already discussed about what a $10 level would be. We've briefly discussed what a $20 level would be. I don't know if we're going to go any higher than that in the near term. It's like Andy and I don't quite know what we would be able to realistically give you guys every month that would make it worth your money to pay that much every month. The $1 and the $5, that's pretty cheap. We'll give you an extra show here and there. We'll let you, decide on the topics for the shows, that kind of thing.
Well, we are also in the development for the $1 and $5, or I think more so for the $5 level, maybe a little bit for the $1 level. That we are in development of trying to get you guys some like phone backgrounds and some desktop backgroununds that are good. Like I do all the coaster art stuff with the prints and all that.
Get like digital versions that you could use as like wallpapers and whatnot. That'd be really cool. You get access to that.
And I guess at those upper levels, it kind of gets into, do you guys want physical goods? And like we have the coaster prints, we have T-shirts and COASTER-net, merch available.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about the calendar and maybe bringing that back. We haven't done that. We didn't do that this past year because there wasn't very much interest in that. Maybe that becomes a Patreon only thing at a certain level, and maybe that becomes your gift for one of the months or something like that.
Yeah. So I guess it really it's going to be guided by you guys and what you guys want. We'll throw up some polls, as we progress through here throughout the months. So to gauge kind of what your interest level is at different places. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we don't want to do anything that you guys don't want to do. And it's kind of going to be like guided by you guys. And like you said, Danny, I think the end goal is if it does get to a certain point that, I think it'd be cool if we did a meetup here or there. Like, it doesn't cost anything. Like, I know Coaster Radio does ERT, does, breakfast and lunch.
Yeah, they go all out. But again, they're getting hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month. They can buy, I've been to I've been to all the Coaster Radio meetups except for the 2 they did the first year. And, they bring donuts and coffee and whatnot. And, at the Knoebels one, Knoebels let us play Fascination as a group. At the Carowinds meetup last year, they actually arranged a tour of Fury 325 for us before the day opened up. So they've done some different things, but I don't think that level of money is really what we're looking for. We're not looking to make hundreds and hundreds of dollars off of this. This is more of like you said, Andy, this is more of the patrons are going to guide and kind of determine where this goes, as opposed to us throwing it. I think what we do is going to be more reactionary to what the people ask for. If people ask for, hey, what about this, this, and this? Okay, well, would you, we can talk about what it's worth to you guys for what we might offer. So we'll certainly be collecting feedback and be in contact with you folks as all of that develops, and we'll see where that goes. So that's, I guess that's do you have anything else to add? We're kind of treating this, it's the Ask Us Anything show, but I think it would be wrong of us to not at least kind of delve into the discussions that we've had a little bit over the past several weeks.
Yeah, and like this is, like you said, this is something that we came up with and said, we, like I said on the show, it's something we struggled with. We know money's valuable. We know that, people have to make choices with how they spend their money. So we really thank you guys for choosing to go this route. And for that, this is our first show. We are in development of the Raptor Manta 2.
Yeah, don't worry. That one's coming. Round 2.
That's coming. Round 2 is coming, but it has to be done correctly. It just can't be done. And we're trying to find that perfect host. And that host probably isn't out there, but we're going to find. What
we didn't have the first time around was the impartial host.
Oh,
so what we
did not.
So I think my suggestion to you was, let's find someone. The first one, I think Brian leaned a little bit more towards my way. So let's find someone who's going to lean a little bit towards Raptor's way in the second round, and then we'll get both of those folks on for round 3. down the road, and then it can be like a Royal Rumble tag team type of grudge match.
So just as you probably noticed that this is on YouTube, it is unlisted, so only you guys have the link to this. We kind of ask that you don't share it with other people, because this is kind of like for just you guys, and we're so comfortable with using YouTube. This is actually the best way that we can deliver this to you. I'm still learning the whole Patreon system. I'm sure there's a way to upload the video right to Patreon.
And if we have issues with that, we'll have to go another way.
So right now we're just using this for YouTube, and doing the unlisted version. So we'll see how this works out. And once again, if it's something you don't like, if you'd rather us just upload it somewhere else, we can upload it somewhere else. It's not a big deal. So I guess let's get into the questions here. I was actually really surprised. We have some pretty good questions here, Danny, tonight. And we've kind of like talked a little bit about them.
And then are you going to say who asked them?
Well,
or do you just want to throw them out there?
I forgot to require a name on that.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So we can do that. All right. So strike one for Andy.
It's a new system. Like, come on.
All right.
So the first question is, if you could replace any 3 roller coasters at Cedar Point, or I would assume whatever park you're most interested in, Danny, with any 3 roller coasters around the world, what would you choose?
Oh.
And I think the way to tackle this one is...
you tell me the way you want to tackle it, and then I'll tell you the way that I want to tackle it.
Because it's, because we can add in the 3 best coasters. If I was to add in 3 of the best coasters, you can take out 3 of the bottom coasters. You can take out the kids coasters or whatever, and you could add in Fury X2 and maybe like...
I think the easy way to answer this question is you take out Wilderness Run, Woodstock Express, and maybe Mine Ride or Corkscrew, and you put in Fury, Voyage, and like an X2 or something like that. I think that's the easy way out. So why don't we do it the hard way, where it's you take out a ride and replace it with a similar type ride. Like you take out an invert, you put it in an invert, or you take out...
And this one's not easy either, because, my contention has been for a while that Cedar Point has the best...
Yeah, that's where... Yeah, well, this is why it's harder, right? Because you've backed yourself into a corner over the past several years by making this argument. They've got the best invert. They've got the best stand-up, which they don't have it anymore. Yeah. But, they've got the best this. They've got the best that. So, they've got the best...
They've got into quite the wars over that statement, too.
Yes, you have. Yeah, quite recently, too.
Ruined people's vacations.
Yes, you have. Not mine, but other people's. So why don't do you want to do like one at a time? Like you do one, I'll do one, you do one, I'll do one?
Sure. I'm going to start with, I think the easiest answer is, for me anyway, and as much as I love Millennium Force, I think Fury 325, I'd rather ride Fury 325 on a regular basis than I would ride Millennium Force. So people will say that's blasphemy at Cedar Point fanboys. But I think, and Fury, the strange part about it is I really think Fury would fit real nicely in that plot of land that Millennium Force is in right there. If you took out Millennium Force, it's kind of...
you could probably change very few things and still get relatively close to what you're looking for there.
Yeah.
Probably.
So that would be my first move I would make is to get rid of Millennium Force. Even though it's a fine ride, I think Fury's that much better. Yeah, and you know what? You told me what the questions were in advance, but I didn't really think about them a whole lot. So I'm trying to think here. You're going to get a little bit of the process here that I'm going through. I'm thinking about Gatekeeper. I don't know if I want to take that one out yet. That one's really strong. Well, I waffle back and forth between Gatekeeper and X-Flight, and I've always said if you unlock the vests on X-Flight, I feel like X-Flight might be better.
Yeah.
But I think Thunderbird is better. Is Thunderbird better? Thunderbird's better than Gatekeeper.
I like Thunderbird better. So, I mean, that's one I thought about. Cedar Point has so many launch coasters, but the Gatekeeper has its nice big elements, whereas Thunderbird is a bit more, I mean, it's not really compact, but it's I don't know. I guess Gatekeeper has more of a graceful aspect to it, whereas Thunderbird, I think, is a bit more agile. I want to, I guess, if I'm not restricted to like the different space restrictions and whatnot, which I don't think we should leave in there because I think that becomes too tough. I think I would take out Corkscrew, and I think I would put in a Tennessee Tornado. Because I love Tennessee Tornado. It was just down at Dollywood a couple weeks ago. I mean, most people would agree that Tennessee Tornado is the best of the Arrow loopers. You'd probably have a few Loch Ness Monster fans in there. But, Tennessee Tornado is butter smooth. It's got an amazing first drop. It's got incredibly intense inversions. It's very short, no doubt. But I think if you're going to take a look at, what can I remove and what can I replace that's a similar ride, I'm going to take out Corkscrew and put in Tennessee Tornado as their old school looping coaster.
That's not a bad move. I actually really like that move because that you significantly.
Well, and I think that's what I'm going for here is like Millennium Force to Fury. I think is an improvement, but I think it's a marginal improvement. I think the delta between Tennessee Tornado and Corkscrew on a lot of people's list, I think that gap is very large. So I think that's what I'm going for.
Yeah. I don't know if there are many other moves I would make.
Well, you still got two more. I mean, you can make this. You can cheap out and make the same move that I just did.
I think another clear move would be Mine Ride. Mine Ride is fun to troll. I don't know if you've ever been on Mine Ride with me, which you haven't. See, what's funny is anytime I ride a ride with Danny, is whatever I do on that ride becomes the stuff of legend. It really does.
Keep going. Keep going.
Keep going. Or
ride this one.
Ride this one. Like we make them into podcasts and stuff.
we gotta get a license deal or something.
So Mine Ride, I also have and what people don't realize is I was brought up in maybe the golden age of Cedar Point. I feel like when I used to go to Cedar Point as a kid.
What's in the shed? It's a middle finger from a tree.
Well, Mine Ride was a big ride when I was a kid, and it was like the college kids that rode things like Gemini and Mine Ride that really made those experiences great. Gemini at night was the place to be. Like those were the only two coasters in the park. Raptor was up front, so people would but people staying at the park, Magnum and Gemini were the two rides to ride at night. And Gemini even more so because of the crowd-like atmosphere with the tagging of the hands and the high fives. And that's been gone. That's gone from Cedar Point. Like, you stick out your hand on Gemini now and people look at you like you're like crazy or something. Like, why are you trying to touch me? Like, that's dangerous. Like, and back in the day, it was like crazy. People would go like, people on the opposite side would try and tag people's hands, and I thought they were going to fall out of the train.
Oh my God.
So anyway, my point is Mine Ride, it's fun to troll on that first drop because you got that pre-drop into the spin, and you just go crazy on it. Like, I'll start screaming after that first drop. And people are like looking at me like I'm crazy, and I am.
Well, yeah.
But I guess on to my move here. I guess I would change Mine Ride out because Mine Ride just hasn't withheld the test of time. And I think the best mine train in the world is currently Thunderation at Silver Dollar.
Yeah, I thought you might be going there.
Yeah, Thunderation is I never thought a ride that had a lift till the station would be something I would talk about, but that ride is just out of this world amazing for a mine ride.
Well, I thought about Mine Ride, and I'm glad you brought up Mine Ride because Mine Ride, see, to me, if I were to take out Mine Ride, I would want to put something in like a Big Thunder Mountain or like something that's heavily themed. But, you kind of did the Mine Ride one, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Instead, now I don't know how we want to handle this because it hasn't opened yet, but I'm going to take out Mean Streak / Steel Vengeance.
Already?
And I'm going to – yes, already, because I want a GCI at Cedar Point. So I'm going to put Gold Striker at Cedar Point, and I'm going to take out I'll say Mean Streak for whatever. Steel Vengeance, haven't ridden it, don't know what it's like. Maybe I wouldn't want to take it out. I don't know. But, I want to put Gold Striker at Cedar Point because I think they need that big, twisted wooden roller coaster. They have an out and back with Blue Streak, so I'm not going to put Voyage in there. That would be the easy thing to do.
Well, you could take out Gemini. Would you be willing to lose Gemini for a Gold Striker?
Sure. Yeah. You know what? That's okay. I'll take out Gemini for Gold Striker. That works. Well, I mean, I don't know. You gave me the option. I mean, I like Gold Striker better than Gemini. I'm not going to compare Gemini to Steel Vengeance. It hasn't opened yet, but I prefer Gemini to Mean Streak. So if we're talking Mean Streak, then take that out. If we're talking Steel Vengeance, then maybe I'll take Gemini out.
Hold on. He specified roller coaster, so he can't.
He specified a roller coaster. Yeah. Okay.
Because the easy choice was Power Tower for Falcon's Fury. That'd be an easy choice.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna commit blasphemy here. No, it's not Raptor. Let's not get stupid.
No, I think I know where you're going here.
I think I'm gonna take out Dragster.
Oh, okay. That is not where I thought you'd be going.
I think I'm going to take out Dragster because Dragster, it's a one-trick pony. It's a really good trick, but I'd rather have a different type of launch coaster, maybe a multi-launch coaster, and maybe put in like a Helix or something. Like I know it's
okay.
Class. But a launch coaster, like
I would say that if we're going by, we're going to replace it by a similar type ride. I mean, if we're going to do Gold Striker for Gemini, then I would let you do like a Helix or something for a Dragster, sure.
And Helix would probably I don't know the.
I think that's closer in style to Maverick, but I mean.
Yeah, no, you're right. What launch coaster would you? I would almost say like an Accelerator is almost like I have Dragster Ring Tire, but Accelerator is a great launch ride too.
Yeah, and it's got a little bit more to it. I mean, it kind of, I don't know.
It's got the dippity do. I don't know.
As long as it's got lap bars, I think maybe would you go with like a Formula Rosa type of thing? Because I think that's more of the same class. You get the speed. You still get the speed record. You don't get the height, but you maybe get a little longer ride.
I've heard some interesting things about Formula Rosa.
I've heard mixed things.
Like that everything's way too drawn out on it, and that you get the extra elements, but they're kind of just like throwaway after you do the first launch.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but something like that, because Dragster. I feel like I've ridden Dragster enough, and Dragster's not even a ride that I ride every year anymore. Like it has to. It's really
it becomes difficult to ride it every year.
Well, it's the line. It's there's always times of the year that you'll hit it, but on those days when Dragster has a short line, everything has a short line, and most of the time I'd rather just jump on Magnum than ride Dragster.
Yeah,
it's a really long queue to walk through.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. So what were your three now? You went with Millennium for Fury, Cedar Creek Mine Ride for Thunderation, and then Dragster for what are you going with here?
If you let me do Helix, I'll do.
I'll let you do Helix. Yeah. All right, and then I went with, what did I go with? Corkscrew for Tennessee Tornado. Gemini or Mean Streak if you go back a couple years for Gold Striker, and then my last one. I could do Gatekeeper for Thunderbird, maybe. I personally, I know you wouldn't, but I would maybe switch out Valraven for like a Griffin. But marginal difference here. Talk about marginal differences. Just to piss you off, I'm going to take out Raptor and I'm going to put in Nemesis.
Really? Because I would have thought. You think Nemesis is better than Banshee?
I do, but again, that's, part of, you have to remember that Nemesis, number 600 milestone credit has some sentimental value, was for many, many, many years, probably 5, 6, 7 years, Nemesis was my most sought after roller coaster and was the ride that I said, people asked many times, if you could go overseas, what park would you go to? And I always said I would want to go to Alton Towers because I want to ride Nemesis, because Nemesis is, and it's old school B&M, 1994 invert for 1994 invert. I'm just putting in the other one. I'm going to give, I'm going to take out a standard layout invert from 1994 and put it a subterranean layout for 1994 invert.
But that's what people don't realize about Raptor is it's a standard layout.
But it was the first. I get it.
It was not a standard layout in 1990.
No, I understand. No, but Nemesis still isn't a standard layout. It does a corkscrew first after a 20-foot drop.
Yeah, I feel like B&M's lost their creativity with how to build rides. They just do formulaic crap, and I think the inverts are a good example of that.
You look at everyone has a loop. Everything has a 0G roll. Everything has a couple corkscrews. Maybe you have a second loop. Maybe you have a Batwing or a Cobra roll or something in there, depending on the model. But for the most part, and maybe you have an Immelman in there. But for the most part, they all have that stuff. Nemesis, Raptor was, the first one to have the Cobra roll and, kind of had a little bit of a different feel to it. And Nemesis does all of that in a different order. I mean, Nemesis does a corkscrew, a vertical loop, or a corkscrew, then a 0G, then a vertical loop, and then does another corkscrew at the end. And it's all like 80 feet below ground level. So, I mean, it's, certainly at the time, two very creative rides.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next question here. We spent a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. That was good.
The next one is, what is our favorite theme park? And I don't think we really talk about this a lot.
No, we kind of mentioned it in passing, I think.
And I don't just want to talk about the number one, because there's two questions. The next two questions, favorite theme park and favorite roller coaster. I think we're going to give you some of our lists here.
I'm bringing mine up here.
Really, give a whole lot of. So for theme park, number one for me is obviously Cedar Point. I'm sorry, there's no question in my mind what place. If you put a gun to my head and said, okay, pick one place to go, before you die, it's Cedar Point. Come on.
Yeah.
But I think my other ones might surprise a few people. They won't surprise you. Some of them might surprise you.
I think I know most of yours, though.
Up until recently, Islands of Adventure was my number 2 place. And since the removal of Dragon Challenge, I've swiftly moved it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I rank the parks is places that I really want to go back to and places that I look forward to going back to. And Islands of Adventure right now, I'm possibly planning a trip down to Orlando for Horror Nights. What are we on? 28 now? I don't even know.
I don't know. You're better with that than I am.
So last year, yeah. So this is gonna be 28. And I'm thinking about not even going to Universal during the day. I'm not even gonna go to Islands of Adventure because I don't want to spend the money to walk through the gates. So that'll show you where I'm at on that one. But my number 2 park is actually Busch Gardens Tampa.
Yeah, you've talked about that one in very high regard.
I don't know what it is about that park. I just feel that they have a nice collection of rides that complement one another. It's a beautiful park to go to. Especially the days I've been going lately are days that it's been like a ghost town, so it also helps that way too, that it's not crowded. If it was crowded, I'm sure my experience would be a lot different. Their Howl-O-Scream event is amazing there, because that's how I also add in.
Yeah, it is. That's one of the ones I went to a couple years ago. We're actually planning to go back down there for that, for the pass holder preview weekend, because it's free. It's not an upcharge that weekend, again, this year in September.
So that adds into it. And it's, finally they got rid of bad employees that I know there. They fired them or they quit, so they finally got rid of those bad employees. One Dason no, so that was good.
No, boo, no.
My number 3 park is actually Holiday World, and
mine too.
Holiday World. I hate the drive. It is a 6-hour drive. Danny, you've been on that drive with me.
Yeah, that's not a fun. I wouldn't want to be doing that drive if I were you either.
It's 6 hours.
For you, it's like it's close enough that you want to go every year, and it's just far enough to make you hate the trip.
Yes. It's like 4 hours to Cedar Point is a long drive, but it's nothing. It goes by quick. That drive to Holiday World, it's killer. So that's my number 3. My number 4 park is Worlds of Fun.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because every time you go there, it's, you talk about the trip, and we went together last year with Adam the Beard Man, and it's like every time you go there, you tell me about it, and you're like, it was all right, and it's like, but it's still, so did you move it down your park ranking? And you're like, no, it's still number 4, and I'm like, all right, that makes sense.
No, I'm still going. For some reason, I always find my way to Worlds of Fun.
Every year.
Like, not every year. It's like every other year.
No, it's every year. It's pretty much.
Like, I still need to get there for Haunt, too. I haven't even been to their Haunt event.
So you're going to go again this year?
I'm possibly. Well, I'm still waiting for that big coaster we put in there that we were talking about, that mystery coaster.
Well, I think the Timberwolf is counting that because we've talked so much about how we were correct in Worlds of Fun getting a coaster.
Well,
because they did.
And lo and behold, right? And then my number 5 park, and I'll end it there, is actually Knott's Berry Farm. So
okay, another one on my list.
And Knott's Berry is another park that probably should be is possibly moving up, because I went to their Knott's Berry Farm for the first time. Amazing event, Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
And they've been putting a lot of money into that park. Quiet money. Like, everyone's talking about hang time, but they added a new barbecue restaurant right next to Accelerator that's outstanding.
Yeah.
That is just beyond amazing. They've been adding, like, the Ghost Town Alive stuff. They've been doing a lot of quiet renovations. Plus, if you talk about, like, the people talk about Dollywood for food, I think Knott's Berry Farm is right up there with the chicken dinner,
with
the barbecue place. If you go to Knott's Berry, you have to go to the bakery right across from Ghost Rider. They have mini pineapple upside down cakes. They got boysenberry donuts. They've got boysenberry cake. It is out of this world amazing. Like, I could sit in there all day. So if you talk about food, I think you got to start talking about Knott's Berry Farm at some level.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm the only thing that I'm upset with that park is they got rid of Pink's hot dogs. And, like, it doesn't bother me too much because they have it at Cedar Point now, but that was the original place where I had my first Pink's hot dog. Also where I got engaged in 2011 on New Year's.
That's right. Yeah, that's a story we don't often talk about, but that is
far midnight 2011.
There you go.
Yeah, fun times out by the Star Pool, right across from Pink's Hot Dogs, which is now a Starbucks. So whatever.
Well, you can't win them all. So then I'll go off my top 5 here. And it's kind of, how my lists are. My lists tend to change a little bit more than yours do. But I've mentioned in passing a lot that Busch Gardens Williamsburg has always been my favorite park. Because of the theming. I think their roller coasters are excellent. My biggest complaint for many years was that they did not have a wood coaster, and they got that with Invader. And I felt that if it didn't complete the lineup, it at least kind of rounded it out a little bit. However, I am not pleased with Curse of Dark Castle being removed. That is something that, I've always very much enjoyed that ride, and I did not like that they removed it. Now they're getting the Battle for Ire VR attraction, which is opening up here very shortly. I think it's already opened up to media and whatnot.
It has. I think they just sent us a date on when it's opening. Let me go look it up for you.
Yeah. So I think that's coming up soon. So I'll have to try that out, but it's still it's not quite the same, I don't think. The VR versus some practical sense.
This Friday.
Okay, cool. So that's certainly something that I wish wouldn't have come out. Curse of Dark Castle. It sounds like they're not going to do much with it, but we'll see. We'll see what they have planned in the future.
Well, them putting in that Haunt last year raised a few eyebrows, and I think that was. I
thought it was pretty good because we got to go through it, and I thought it was pretty good. I'd still really like to have Dark Castle there, though.
Yeah.
So that's that. Another one that I added to my list from our UK trip, obviously, Alton Towers. I mean, I talked about how much I enjoyed Alton Towers and how much I was anticipating going there and how much it lived up to the hype. I mean, they have so many great roller coasters. Nemesis, Galactica, Smiler, out of this world. 13 I thought was fantastic. Oblivion, was very, very thrilling, even though it's kind of the one-trick pony type of deal. And they had some great dark rides. They have the Hex dark ride, which is the Vekoma Madhouse inside the castle. They have Duel, which is their shooting dark ride. One of the best shooters. I've been on so many targets. It was actually a dark ride that they converted to a shooter because it was losing popularity. We went through the walk-through haunt maze that was inside the castle, which was really, really cool. They even used to have more dark rides that have since closed down. They had the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory ride that no longer operates. Again, my complaint about Alton Towers. And one of my only complaints about Alton Towers was the same one I had for many, many years about Busch Gardens Williamsburg, was that they didn't have a wood coaster. Well, now they do. It wasn't open when we were there, so when we get to go back, we'll get to ride Wicker Man, which is now open and is drawing pretty good reviews from the locals over there. So maybe the combination of Wicker Man going into Alton Towers and Curse of Dark Castle coming out of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, maybe that's something I'll, down the road. I
would be that guy to have.
Of course I would. I would have
European park.
Yes, I would. Now, I'm going to Europa Park next year, so maybe that's all moot. But I had to throw that in there. But again, Alton Towers, the theming was incredible in a lot of the different areas. The rides were running very, very well. And they have the roller coaster restaurant there. I mean, that's another thing, you add in. And again, Europa Park has one of those, too, a food loop. And we actually have a group meal planned at the roller coaster restaurant at Europa Park on the trip next year. So that'll be lots of fun that we'll actually get to eat there. So, Alton Towers is another one for sure. Another one that you mentioned, Holiday World, has always been on my list. It's, the small family-friendly kind of deal, especially during Hollywood Nights. They do a fantastic job. They really go all out. And the fact that Voyage is my favorite roller coaster certainly helps that's there. And I think that's one of the best events, if not the best event I've been to. It's one of those that I go to every year. Really, really enjoy Holiday World, for what it is. Another one that I'll put, I've always had Knott's Berry Farm very high. I've always had Dollywood very high as well. And, Islands of Adventure as well. I always have up very high there. The next group is like Dollywood, Universal, Knott's Berry Farm, Busch Gardens, Tampa, and Cedar Point, for the same reasons you talked about all those parks. Dollywood has some amazing food, as you kind of led to. Lightning Rod is one of the best wood coasters in the world for sure. I still very much enjoy Thunderhead. We've already talked about Tennessee Tornado tonight. I think Wild Eagle is very good as well. I've always had very good experiences with the staff at Dollywood. They're always very friendly, at least when I go there. I really enjoy the Mountain Slide Winder attraction there at Dollywood too. Very, very obscure. Never ridden anything else quite like it, but very much enjoy it. We talked about a lot of those other parks when you went down your list already, but I like many of those for the same reasons. So, those are some of our top parks. It was a good list, I think, on both accounts. Some things that, we're a little bit different on and some things that we can agree on.
So the next question was our top roller coasters. I'm going to have to consult my list. Mine doesn't change all that often, but I like to be accurate. So my top 10... Now, are we doing steel? We could do wood too, right?
Yeah, why don't we do both of them?
Okay, so top 10 steel for me, in order: Raptor, Maverick, Fury, Skyrush, X2, Millennium Force, Iron Rattler, Magnum, I-305, Banshee for my steel list.
Okay.
You want to do your steel list next?
Yeah, so I'm going to read off my favorite list. We talk about the favorite
those are the best rides. That's the best rides in the world list.
Oh, the best rides because it's your list?
Well, yeah, I'm this. of course. Like, come on.
Oh, okay. So I'll read off my favorite list here because that's the one I usually tell people. So I've got Manta, Nemesis, and then Fury, I-305, Maverick, Apollo's Chariot, Superman at New England, Behemoth, Leviathan, Millennium Force.
Wow, that's real shitty.
And then after that, I go down Thunderbird, Mako, Banshee, Wicked Cyclone, and the ultimate at Lightwater Valley is number 15. I wanted to get that one in there because that thing is batshit crazy.
my list is so much better. My wood list
probably
is Voyage, Prowler, Lightning Rod, Mystic Timbers, Outlaw Run, Ghost Rider, El Toro, your favorite, Phoenix, Rampage.
Yeah, I would have to scroll down quite a ways to find El Toro.
It's 9. I think my number 10 is Goliath, to be honest.
Oh, okay. My top 10 wood, I've got Voyage 1, Lightning Rod 2, Phoenix 3, Boulder Dash 4, Gold Striker 5, Mystic Timbers 6, Rampage 7, Legend 8, Raven 9, The Beast 10.
You do not.
The Beast at night, number 10.
Oh, you.
All right, I'll take the Beast out and give you Thunderhead. Is that any better?
No.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, then number 12 is a Renegade. How's that one? Is that one better?
That one's better.
Okay. Well, then, for Andy's sake, I'll put Renegade at number 10.
I think when you get out to knots again, I think Ghost Rider is going to jump up.
I really hope so. Ghost Rider is down in the 20s for me, and it's right below El Toro. So if I end up liking it at all, El Toro is going to drop even more. So
I would not be surprised if you put Ghost Rider in your top 10 after writing the new Ghost Rider.
That would be outstanding. I would love it. I would love it if that were the case.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. This is from Jeff. If you were in the position to make development decisions at your home park, what would you do to enhance the park?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so do we want to? He said home park.
He said home park. So
okay, so
one there.
Well, the home park.
Anything would be.
Well, yeah, right. The home park. I guess we should say the park that you go to the most. Is that what we're defining as home park?
Yeah, and he suggested I choose somewhere other than Cedar Point. So maybe I'll choose Great America.
Yeah, for you, I would do Great America. And for me, I mean, technically the park I go to the most is probably Hershey, just because I go there for the hockey games and I usually run into the park for a few hours here and there. Although because I worked at Dorney and I grew up 10 minutes from Dorney, I've always considered Dorney my home park. So I'm going to stick with Dorney because I think that's a bit more interesting for this topic because Dorney has done very small things over the last several years. So what do we want to do like 3 things each? Like do a couple things?
Well, yeah, I think with Great America, the one big thing that I'm still waiting on from that park, and I thought Goliath might be this. I thought Goliath might be the ride. I'm still waiting for the headliner. And they have a nice collection of supporting cast.
They have a really good collection of supporting cast. You know, X-Flight's a really good ride. You know, Raging Bull is okay on good days. Viper's pretty good. American Eagle's pretty good. You've got Batman. You've got Superman. You know, Goliath is a very, very good ride. I mean, there's not a whole lot of bad rides at that park.
No, it's they have a nice collection of roller coasters. They've even built themselves a nice little collection of rides, too, adding in the Justice League, really improved it. But there's not that one signature coaster that you can point at and you can say, that's on my top 10 list. Like
that's why I need to go to Six Flags Great America.
Exactly. Like I'm only like the problem with going to Great America for me is I'm on the south side. Great America's up by the Wisconsin border. So it's if I get no traffic, it's 45 minutes to get up there. Not a long drive.
Yeah, but that's a hard ask.
Yeah, well, the problem is on the way back, though, anytime during the summer, if you want to leave, like you have to choose when to leave that park.
You either leave at 2 o'clock or 8 o'clock.
Exactly. You leave anytime in between, and you're in 3 hours of traffic. So it's kind of like if you go there, it's a full day. Now, my sister actually lives like 10 minutes from the park. So that I thought was going to help, but no, I don't want to visit her apparently either.
Good thing your sister's not a patron.
She is not. So
Yet.
that's good. So so it's kind of like I want that ride that I will say, you know what, during the summer, I'm off, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to go to Great America today to go ride this ride. And right now there isn't that ride. There, like, Goliath is really good. X-Flight's really good. I love Batman. Superman's fun. They still need the headliner though. They need they need a Giga. They need a Maverick. They need something that people are like, oh my God. And maybe, I'll tell you what it might be. If they RMC'd American Eagle, I think that might be.
Well, we've heard that. And, that was funny because a lot of people said that was going to happen when they first started seeing the RMC jackets, and it ended up being Goliath.
Well, they even went as far as to put signs up on American Eagle that said Eagle was closing forever. Like, there were signs like on the ride-op booth saying that Eagle was closing. And people are like, oh my God, they're going to RMC Eagle. And then it never came to pass. Some people love Eagle, and I don't understand those people. I think it's rough as hell. It's good if you ride it like right when the season opens because they've done the retracking on it.
Yeah, and if you ride it in the front seat, you kind of reduce a little bit of that roughness.
But you ride it in over Fright Fest in any other seat than the front seat, and it's a completely different experience, and it's not a fun one. I would love to see a Topper / Iron Horse redo of like a racer of American Eagle. I'd love to see it, and that might be the ride because I don't think they're going to get a Giga. They could get, I don't know, they could get one of these RMC Raptor tracks. I don't think that would be a headliner though.
I hope not.
Yeah, seriously. So maybe one of those Vacomas that we might be talking about pretty soon here.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So what would you? So are you doing like all of yours, like all the things you would do?
Well,
there?
I would do a headliner. It's hard to say. I think they could do some bigger flat rides. I think they need in the park. They have a lot of coasters, but they don't have you think of Cedar Point. You got Max there. You got Skyhawk.
And they took out their King Chaos. So
they took out. Well, that ride was awful to begin with. That ride was not one of the nice top spins. Mm-hmm. It was one of the knockoff top spins. It was real tight. I'll tell you what. I sat next to Dwayne a few seasons ago, and I thought I was going to suffocate on the ride. It was that uncomfortable that it was just super, super tight. So that nice new roller coaster they put in, Hang Time or Hangover, Mardi Gras Hangover.
Oh my God.
That's going to be a nice little addition there for sure. Much better than King Chaos. But they need a good flat ride collection, I think, would be my second move is maybe taking out some of the smaller, like they have like the smaller flats. They need big flats. They need like the stuff we've seen them put in with the giant Discoveries. A nice Endeavor, Zamperla Endeavor would be nice to add in there. That would go a long way. I would like to see an expansion of the flat rides. And then, I don't know, just something to fix the lines. The lines are so bad at that park. And I don't know if that comes...
Maybe better ride operators is your answer there.
Well, maybe better ride ops, maybe, more rides that are that people queue up for. Maybe those bigger flat rides people would queue up for more.
Yeah.
But it's just every time I go there, the lines are just unending. And I thought it would get better with like Justice League and Goliath and X-Flight. They've been adding a whole bunch of stuff, Joker, and now the new Larson loop. But the lines aren't getting any better. So I don't know what it is there. And it might just be the ride-ops that more efficiency would be great. Because that's the other reason I don't go there a lot is I don't want to have to deal with the lines.
No, and that's a fair ask. So that's good. Okay. I like it. I think all those things would be good. So for me, going to Dorney Park, the obvious one, which I've been asking for many, many years, is give me a GCI going through the woods behind Steel Forest where the dinos currently are. That would be the first thing. And now that Stinger is gone, I actually drove by Dorney Park this past weekend. All that's left of Stinger is the 2 lift hills. Everything else has been cut apart. The station has been completely demolished as well. It's being cut apart. So we'll see what happens. The fact that the station was taken down I don't know if that bodes too well for a possible roller coaster coming anytime soon, though, because you think maybe they would want to reuse it, but I don't know. It's really hard.
It depends on the orientation. If they're really going to put in Cannon in, they might have to orientate the station in a different way.
Yeah, that's true. So a good point. So I would do GCI.
Station is kind of prohibitive on what you can do with it too.
Yeah, I mean it's not very large, so I mean
I invert station first because you'd have to dig out the middle, right?
Well, it's got the floor that unlike the SLCs, which kind of
it does
goes down. Yeah.
Because I was thinking that because you would have to put track there and you'd have to dig it out anyway, so. Because you're going to do a sit-down coaster in theory, you're not going to do another invert.
No, they've already got 2 of them. It'd be silly to add a third for another time. So I would do a GCI wooden coaster somewhere back behind Steel Force, maybe something Prowler or Mystic Timbers-esque. I think would be really, really nice. That would get me really excited. The second thing that I'm going to do is I want them to. Yeah, there you go. That's a nice hat. You got it in the clearance store.
Clear, like $3. That's the other great thing about Worlds of Fun.
It's a hell of a hat for $3.
You can get super cheap stuff there all the time. Like all their stuff is always on clearance,
except for the $26 T-shirts.
Well, that's taken.
Yeah,
you're a jabroni. So
so the second thing that I would do at Dorney is I would add in some sort of, dark ride. And it doesn't have to be a shooter ride. It doesn't have to be like a thrill ride. It could be something like years ago. People always talk about the Journey to the Center of the Earth, I think is actually what it was called. And it sat on top. So if you've been to Dorney Park and where Thunderhawk Station currently is, it goes out and then it goes into like a trench and makes a right-hand turn. And it's like in a trench below ground level and then hits the lift hill. That trench right before the lift hill actually used to be the station, which is why it's weirdly configured like that. And it used to be underground, and they used to have a dark ride building that was on top of that. And the coaster kind of went underneath the building. So I think it would be cool if they brought, and it wouldn't have to be in the same location, but I think it would be really cool if they brought back a classic old school, dark ride, like a mill chute, something like that. Kind of, because Dorney Park, parts of it feel very new in Cedar Ferry, and then other parts of the park still have that classic, like, we're just at an amusement park type feel. You go to Cedar Point, you go to Kings Dominion, you go to Kings Island, there's themed lands. At at Dorney Park, that's not the case. You're just at an amusement park. You've got the Dodgems, you've got the Whip, you've got the Dodgems are new. They never had standard bumper cars for many, many years. They had like the hovercraft crazy cars for a little bit, but you've got Demon Drop, you've got the Dodgems, you've got the octopus ride called the Monster. You've got the Frisbee ride, which is called Revolution. You've got the inverted swinging ship. It's called the Meteor. You've got the swinging ship called the Sea Dragon. You've got the Ferris wheel. You've got the old school Whip. You've got all these classic rides with these classic names. Like if you walked into Roller Coaster Tycoon and put in bumper cars, you would call them the Dodgems or whatever. That's just what you would do. You've got the classic Carousel. You've got all these classic type rides. So it seems silly that you wouldn't have a classic flat or a classic dark ride of some sort. So I think that would be really neat if they would bring something back like that. It doesn't have to be themed to anything in particular, but if they could have some sort of old school style dark ride, I think that would be pretty cool. And maybe the other thing I would do, the operations have always been pretty good, and the fact that the water park does pretty well, I think takes away a lot of the lines in the dry park. I'm actually going to put 2 more things, one of which is going to be the park and one's going to kind of be a little bit separate. But so the third park improvement I'm going to do some sort of like water park expansion. When they did Snake Pit, that was kind of the first thing they'd done to the water park in many, many years. I think it would be really, really cool if they did a Pro Slide style water coaster. or something like that. Hershey Park's getting one this year at the boardwalk. And I haven't, the last time I went into the water park area of Hershey Park was to take my sister on the roller soaker in its last year before it got ripped out, because she needed the credit. And I had not ridden it for many, many years since I had first gotten it. I only ever rode that thing twice, once to get the credit and then once to get her the credit. So Hershey Park is getting the water coaster. I think Dorney Park would benefit greatly from doing something like that, and maybe that would be the centerpiece of some sort of expansion. I think that would be great. I think it would be really cool because as I've said, if more water parks had water coasters like Wildebeest and Mammoth, I would probably go into water parks more often. I will probably go into Hershey Park's water park, if nothing else, just to ride the water coaster this summer at some point. And if Dorney Park got a water coaster that was like that, I would most certainly be going into that water park more often than never, which is pretty much, how often I go in there at this point. So, those are kind of my 3 park improvements. The other thing that I think would be cool, and I know it's not going to happen.
The entire park out of Pennsylvania?
No.
The worst state in the union?
No. See, it would be cool just because it was a pastime of my dad's and something that on occasion I will take part in. I might go to one a year, depending. It's pretty big up in my neck of the woods up here. Is dirt car racing. And back in the 80s, the Dorney Park racetrack was an asphalt racetrack where like the late model cars and the modifieds and the 4-cylinder race cars would race. And my dad worked on a pit crew when he was growing up for a driver who still races in our area up north at the Mahoning Valley Speedway. Which is, maybe a half an hour north of us. And, we always love going to dirt car races. The Super Dirt Week is only an hour away in Syracuse area up here. The Super Dirt Car Series, the big block engine, the big block modifieds with engines with more horsepower than your NASCAR cars race up here on the dirt tracks up here in New York and Quebec and Ontario and up here in the Northeast. So I think it'd be really cool if Dorney Park put a racetrack back in and put in a third of a mile dirt track. So you go to the theme park and then, when the sun goes down, the lights go on and you watch some dirt cars smash them up in the dirt corners. You sit in turn 3 and you come home looking like a groundhog. I've done it a couple times up here. There's a track in Binghamton called 5 Mile Point where we sat in the corner once. My dad came up one night. We sat in the corner. We were parked behind turn 4 and my car was brown and it was muddy for a week until it rained. It's a lot of fun and it's an old school, rednecky type of thing to do. But
Pennsylvania people.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, we're weird, but it's extremely, extremely popular. When the Syracuse Fairgrounds still had the Moody Mile up here before that got torn up a couple years ago. They used to pack thousands and thousands of people in there the second week of October every year to watch the Syracuse 200, and always a fun time. So I think that'd be cool to just have a racetrack back at Dorney Park. That'd be really cool.
So the next question is, if you had to subtract one element and replace it with another on your favorite coaster, what would it be? I think mine's pretty easy.
Are you going Raptor or Voyage here?
I'm gonna go Raptor.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say I'm so sick and tired of people bitching about the first drop.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say probably if you put Banshee's drop on Raptor, Banshee's first drop is out of this world amazing.
Oh, it's awesome.
It takes me by surprise every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been on it. I didn't go to Kings Island last year. So I'm trying to think if I'm going to go to Coaster Stock this year. I'm not positive yet. But that first drop on Banshee's just out of this world.
Well, you went, but you just went for Media Day, right?
Oh yeah, I did go last year.
But did you go when the park was open, or did you just?
Yeah, I was there the whole weekend.
That was over a year ago at this point. Well, that was a year ago at this point.
It's so long. It is. It's a really long time ago.
It's been a year.
I forgot that I went for media day. Look at that. So I was there last year, and Banshee was amazing last year as well. So, but yeah, I would put Banshee's drop on Raptor. And then the speed coming out of that would be, I don't mind the first drop because that first loop is so nice on Raptor.
Yeah.
But that first drop on Banshee's a lot better. So I'd change it out.
Yeah. So then
Manta, you could just change the whole ride.
Well, Manta, I mean, the easy answer and the cop-out answer is I take out the mid-course brake run and put in another 0G roll. Yeah. That's the cop-out answer. But you know, I don't want to necessarily cop out that way. If I could, I would. But
would you do anything to Voyage though?
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, what would you do for Voyage? I mean, you actually think the mid-course brake run is kind of well-placed because it sets up the second half.
I'll say this. I think the first drop on Voyage could be better.
It could be. Well, and I think that stems from the fact that you and I have always said that if Voyage is running slow, it's better in the back. And if the brakes are hitting, like during a regular day, it's better in the back. But if the brakes aren't hitting, or if you're riding it at night, and then it's better in the front, and it's better in the front. I've always thought the airtime was better in the front. It's a bit more whippy in the back, but the airtime I think is far superior going over top of some of the hills in the front. And the first drop in the front is just, you know, it's a drop. In the back, you still get some yank, but you know, would you say replace the Voyage drop with, dare I say it, like an Outlaw Run or a Goliath style drop, and just make it steeper?
I would just think you have to make it steeper. That I feel like the first drop on Voyage, because I remember the first time I rode Voyage, and it was during the day, it was in the morning, and the first drop was just so underwhelming. It's really the rest of the ride that's outstanding, but that first drop, like if they could make that steeper and really get you going off of that first drop, then I think it's clearly the best ride in the world. I would actually like to hear people, like, well, what is the criticism of Voyage? Is it that it's just too intense?
Yeah, like, because here's the thing. There's a lot of people who have said, you know, oh, it's too rough. But I challenge that because I've ridden rough wooden coasters. We've talked about it, like, in particular, Georgia Cyclone is a good example because I've never said that Georgia Cyclone was not rough. I've been very clear on that. I've never said that Georgia Cyclone is smooth. I've said I like Georgia Cyclone because it's rough. I said that's one of the things I like about it. The Boss is not smooth. I enjoy the Boss, and part of it is I like the rough nature of it. You know, Predator is another one. Predator is a rough ride at Darien Lake, but I enjoy Predator. Part of it's because of its roughness. You know, and then we've talked about other rides that are rough in a bad way, like the jackhammery type of rough. Yeah. You know, we've talked about that before on certain rides. You've said that Thunderhead is one that you don't like the jackhammeriness of it, which had some work done to it. It seemed. You know, so you know, it was much smoother when I rode it this past year. So you know, hopefully that's good news. But if you know, Voyage to me has never been a ride that's been jackhammery, uncomfortable rough. Voyage to me has always been an intense rough. You know, like a. You know, I think Rampage is a good example, and even Legend, to a point, I think is an intense rough. It's not an uncomfortable rough or a painful rough. It's a side-to-side, up and down rough. You know, I would even say Boulder. I would even say Mystic Timbers, to a point, has some of the side-to-side and up and down roughness to it because it's intense, but not a jackhammery, uncomfortable rough.
I don't know. I think there's a big difference between the Thunderhead rough and like being aggressive. Like I think some rides are aggressive. I feel Thunderhead is just bad. Like
yeah, to me, rough is what Son of Beast was. Rough is a Vekoma SLC. You know, rough is the Manhattan Express. Voyage, Boss, Rampage. Those rides to me are aggressive and intense. And I think And if you're not the type of person who likes an intense, aggressive ride and you'd rather have your Phoenix at Knoebels or, your White Lightnings or, even an El Toro, which, I think El Toro is very good in the sense that it has a lot of up and down and it's got a lot of good airtime. But El Toro, I don't think, is a challenging experience in terms of pushing you to your limits, in terms of what your body can physically endure, like Voyage does. And that's what I like in a ride, and that's what I always liked about Georgia Cyclone, is Georgia Cyclone was a challenging ride to ride. I think Voyage and Maverick are very similar in that sense, that Maverick gets a lot of criticisms for being overly aggressive. I think Maverick is a challenging ride to ride. So maybe that's the criticism of Voyage. So, I think that's probably a good one. I would change maybe make the first drop on Voyage steeper. I think that's the only thing I could really think to make it any better. And, Manta, like I said, I would replace that mid-course brake run with another roll or something. I can't think of anything else I would want to change on it.
Yeah, well, just throw it out. So here's a question for you, I think. Why is it that when a train goes over an airtime hill, you can hear a clicking sound?
Okay. Do they give an example?
They give Twisted Timbers and Fury 325 as examples.
Okay, so I haven't been down to Twisted Timbers yet. Hopefully this weekend, crossing our fingers. We've tried twice already, and the weather has, forced us to, postpone. But Fury 325, and I think I know what this person's talking about. I think you're talking about, and I think you can hear it at the bottom of the hills too. There is B&Ms in particular, I think, do it most of the time, is when the train's going and it's like, da-da-da. And it almost sounds like the anti-rollback dog is like hitting the track.
Yeah.
It's like a creaking noise almost. And what I believe that is, they said when it goes over a hill.
Yeah, and mostly airtime hills. I don't know if it's when it's coming off of it, when it's going up it.
Okay. So I tend to hear it a little bit more at the bottom of hills. Okay. This is a good question. So I'm going to try and think about what it might be. My immediate thought is it has something to do with vibration, which is how you get the B&M roar. So for everybody knows about the B&M roar. I did a project on this in engineering school about the B&M roar. And I found videos of two rides side by side. I think it was like Hulk and then Medusa at Discovery Kingdom, which is filled. And so is Talon and Hydra are also filled. So I think it's related to the same thing that you get the B&M roar from. What happens is there is a thing called natural frequency. And every structure has several natural frequencies. And what that is the frequency at which the structure is naturally vibrating at. So a frequency is how often a ride does a vibration cycle. So for example, a skyscraper is not perfectly rigid. As the wind goes, it sways ever so slightly. And if you've ever ridden like Lex Luthor Drop of Doom, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you've ridden, maybe not so much Zumanjaro, but if you've been to the top of like a observation tower or whatever, you can maybe feel it sway a little bit. Or if you've been at the top of like, a tree or something, if you look outside, you might see your tree branches swaying. They have a natural frequency, and that's what they are naturally vibrating at. So, for a building, it's, it goes to the left, it goes to the right. One complete cycle of left to right and then back to the middle is one cycle. So the frequency is how many times that cycle takes place in a given time frame. Hertz is per second. So like your computer screen. If you ever try and take a picture with your cell phone of the computer screen, you get like these little horizontal or vertical lines across the screen, and it doesn't come up as you see it because computer screens are actually flickering at a very rapid pace. It's not a perfect screen. Your televisions do it too. The television that I have right now is a new HD digital smart TV that doesn't have the little color dots, the RGB color pixels, because my TV is actually a constant picture. The newer like plasma TVs are constant pictures. They're not flickering, which is why they don't need the RGB codes. That's how the colors change, is the little pixels change colors, at very, very high rates. And you would need to take a high-speed camera and slow it down to thousands of frames per second to see the picture actually flickering. So those have a very high frequency. TVs, computer screens, because their flicker rate is very high, because you have several thousand cycles per second, several flickers per second. A big structure is a very slow frequency, because it's swaying in the wind very slowly, so it's got a very low frequency. The track, the B&M track, sitting there is not perfectly rigid all the time, especially when the train is going over. It's a dynamic structure. It moves. If you ever watch a wood coaster go around an unbanked turn at a high speed, the structure sways. It's got some sort of sway to it. And what I believe you are witnessing is, with that creaking, clicking noise, is when the track bends, when the train goes over it, it's changing the frequency. It's forcing it to do something that's different than its natural frequency. And when that bend that it's incurring from the train going over the track is a multiple of that natural frequency, or close to the natural frequency. So if the natural frequency is 100 hertz and the next one is 200 hertz. So if it goes like this, or if it goes twice as fast where it's going like this, or 3 times as fast, those are all natural frequencies, just different multiples of the same natural frequency. So when the train goes over the track and catches it in such a way that it changes the frequency to be a multiple of the natural frequency, is how you get sound. That's how you get sound energy from the motion. Because the motion, when it changes it, you need to disperse that extra energy being added. And in order for if the structure doesn't, if there's no sound or no give to the structure, it just breaks, right? Like a paper clip will bend very easily. Whereas if you take like a pencil won't bend. It'll just snap in half. So you need to have some give to the structure, otherwise it'll fracture. So that noise is when you're hitting a multiple of that natural frequency, instead of breaking in half, that extra energy is dissipated somehow, and it's by sound energy. So you get that clicking, and it's not actually a clicking, it's a very fast vibration is what's happening, and it's hitting the natural frequency at a multiple where it's audible to the human ear. Tuning fork, same thing. If you have like a wine glass that's filled with water and you wet the end of your finger and you rub your finger around the edge of the wine glass, sometimes you can get the glass to hum. You're hitting a natural frequency that is audible to the human ear. Same kind of, or when you blow water bottle. I'm blowing across at a frequency that causes the water bottle to vibrate, and it causes a sound that is audible to the human ear. Same thing is happening with the roller coaster track. The B&M roar and this clicking noise comes from the fact that it's a box beam, and because you have sharp corners, when it's round, the sound is kind of bounced around at the same rate because it's the round spine. It dissipates evenly. But when you have the square spine, the vibrations have a different distance to where they hit the edges of the box. So it could hit near a corner and then it hits another wall. So it's not hitting the walls at the same frequency all the time, which is where you get the extra sound from. And that's why some B&Ms like Hydra or Talon, I think Silver Bullet is also filled. Discovery Kingdom's Medusa is another one. They're filled with sand or gravel because the sand and gravel puts a lot more mass inside there, and it absorbs the vibration energy before it becomes sound energy. So what you're hearing on that clicking noise is the track vibrating at an unnatural rate that is a multiple of its natural rate, which is causing the vibration to become audible to the human ear, just like when you blow across a water bottle that's, half full. That's kind of what's happening there. It's a very, very scientific, and that, like I said, I did a project for my vibrations class on it, which is why I'm somewhat familiar with it. So I believe that is what's actually happening. It's literally just advanced physics.
The last question is a quick one too. So are you guys going to Cedar Point Media Day on April 25th?
No, we don't know. No, we.
If that's the day, no.
If that's the date, no, because if you're at the time of this recording, we don't know if we've been chosen as the the really awesome forking contest that Cedar Point was putting on. If so, we haven't had I don't know official word that that's the date, right?
TPR did an unboxing, so I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna roll with that. Probably is the date because everyone's been saying April 25th.
Well, if that's the date, that's a Wednesday. Neither of us are going to be able to go. That's if we were to be invited.
Yeah, and the reason why I can't go is that is the Wednesday. That's the night before the opening of my play called Cry of the Banshee.
Cry of the Banshee, right.
So I got some pretty cool t-shirts for that play using an old school Cedar Point logo. So
yes.
But yeah, so there's just no way I can get out there between rehearsal and audition or rehearsals and tech runs. There's just no way I can get out there to do the media day, which is unfortunate, but
yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's tough for me because, I've got a lot of vacation days, divvied up for other trips. We're doing Texas this year. We're doing California. We're going to go up to the Pacific Northwest and hit up Silverwood and Wild Waves and hopefully Peony Playland. We're going to do an Orlando run. We're doing a Missouri run at one point too. And to go out on a Wednesday to a park that I can do in a weekend later on in the year, a possibly opening weekend, is tough for me to justify taking a vacation day. And I've also got to conserve some vacation days since we got that big Europe trip again, which is going to be close to 2 weeks coming up in 2019. So I've got to be mindful of that as well. In another year or two where I start getting a 3rd week's vacation instead of just my regular 2 weeks, in addition to our company holidays, it's going to be much, much easier for me to maybe take a day or two and go to media days on Wednesdays where I can take a day and a half, 2 days, and do some of them. So, this type of scenario is not going to happen too often in the coming years here if Andy, for whatever reason, can't go to certain media days. So if that is the date, it's not likely that you'll see either one of us there.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but
yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, it's certainly a place that both of us are going to be, and you and I are talking about going to Cedar Point at least once this year together, so we can ride. Hopefully, the first time that we ride it, we'll be together. That we'll get to ride Steel Vengeance together, and maybe we'll do the whole cell phone in the zipper pocket thing for that, like we did on Lightning Rod a couple years ago, and we'll see how that goes. But as of right now, it does not look like either of us will be at the media day. Although you might happen to see us at some point during the opening week festivities.
Yeah. So that wraps up our first Ask Danny and Andy Anything. Good questions, guys.
This was good. I like this. We'll keep doing this every so often. Maybe not every month, but
don't feel and don't feel obligated to pick roller coaster questions. You can look around, and I have a lot of different interests that you can talk about. You want to ask me about WrestleMania?
If you want to ask me what the hell this thing is back here,
just don't ask us about Centralia, and we'll be okay.
No, ask Dwayne about that because he's lived through that. So,
thanks for being our patrons, guys, and as always, right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care.